Hello and welcome to the Common Colt Podcast, a Colts podcast made by Colts fans who pull no punches, and today that was pretty easy to do. My name is Josh Hudgens, and with me is my co-host Dan Hertzler, and we're licking our wounds after a disappointing loss against the Titans.
Yeah, we're sitting here now, 3 divisional games, 0-2-1, and just really 2 different halves, but you can't even feel excited about the second half because we're already 4 games into the season, and this Colts team is the old saying is their record is showing us who they are, and they're just not a good team right now. You got questions all up and down, and you saw them all today. Josh, what were some of your thoughts about this game?
Yeah, offensively, another slow start, whether it's play calling, whether it's personnel, I don't care. It keeps happening, and it happened again today. First drive.
And you know what I mean by that, right? Slow start, what does that mean? That's coach. 100% that's coach. You can't tell me after 4 games that they can't come out and put some points on the board. They can't come out and do something offensively. So to me, that's 100% on Frank Reich.
Yeah, and offensively, you kind of pick up the pace a little bit towards the end of the first half, and in the second half they showed some signs of life. But Matt Ryan channeled his inner Carson Wentz again, turning the ball over. Offensive line couldn't protect him in key situations, and they couldn't run block to save their lives, I felt. Defensively, I thought the defense kind of kept them in the game. I know they weren't creating turnovers. We had hoped that Shaquille Leonard was going to come in and maybe pop a ball loose or something. He got hurt early in the game, and that was a shame to see a concussion. But I thought the defense kept them in it.
Yeah, the defense, again, it hasn't been kind of one of these, create a massive turnover, splash plays, whatever you want to call them. And so the offense puts them in a bad spot the first half. Defense doesn't do a good job. I did notice, we talked about this, before the game, the Colts needed to get Jonathan Taylor in some unique situations, whether it was a quick screen pass, whether it was something different. And that's exactly what the Titans did with Derrick Henry in the first half. And it worked great. Henry was just kind of running all over him, catching some passes, doing some things that got him out to the lead. Now, the second half, again, the defense stepped up. Defense looked really good, gave them a legitimate shot. So I don't put too much responsibility on this loss on the defense. To me, I'm looking at Jonathan Taylor. I'm looking at the offensive line. You can't be the best back in the league, get 20 carries, and only average 2.1. You can't be the best back in the league when the game's on the line and you need to get that first down, and you can't get the first down. You cough it up. Now, again, there's some reports out there. We'll talk at the end. He probably got hurt on that play, or he's got a high ankle sprain, which is horrible news for the Colts. But this is a game where we're just seeing it over and over again. And Josh, the worst thing possible right now for the Colts is putting all this money into an offensive line that looks like they do.
Yeah, it's a shame, especially like you said, the number 1 highest paid offensive line in the NFL, and your strength of that offensive line is the interior. That you got Ryan Kelly there, you've got Quentin Nelson there, and you try to run it up the middle, and it's not working. Pressure's coming up from the middle. It's coming from all different places. I mean, it's hard to pinpoint what the situation is, but I feel like we're in construction and we're trying to build a skyscraper, and all the building materials we're using just are falling apart and breaking, and the screws are snapping, and this just does not feel like a well-fit team, and that is very alarming. 1 quarter away into the season, I'm putting my blame on the offensive line.
Yeah,
and Matt Ryan. And offensive line, you already heard why. That's supposed to be our strength. That's supposed to be our identity, and it's just not proving to be that. And Matt Ryan, I get it that he's trying to make a play and try to be a hero, and you could say in the second half, and you could say in the late second quarter, he really did kind of help make this comeback possible, but he put him in some tough spots too. He's fumbling the ball. He's throwing the interceptions, and that's Carson Wentz to me, and that's not what we brought this guy in to do.
Yeah, I'm going to push back a little bit on you there because you look at a quarterback that doesn't have a running game, a quarterback that has offensive line problems. What do you expect from him? Matt Ryan, he starts out slow. He's kind of like a 45-year-old man trying to run a sprint. Like, they got to warm up, they got to stretch a little bit. It seems like every game's got to be that case for Matt Ryan. But he finished throwing the ball great, moving the ball, got the team back into position, got him a chance to actually make a fourth quarter of it, and had a chance to win. So I'm not going to put much on Matt Ryan. He is who he is. He's an older veteran quarterback. He's still good enough to sling it. He's got zero help. Got nothing from Jonathan Taylor. He's got nothing from the offensive line. You can't expect Matt Ryan to be back there, getting away from blitzers, trying to figure out all the pressure. And then, is he fumbling too much? Of course. Is he looking bad in the first quarter? Yeah, he is. But to me, Matt Ryan is not your problem. It's offensive line, it's Jonathan Taylor, it's Frank Reich.
How do you think Matt Ryan feels? I mean, he gets traded to Indy, and he thinks, hey, maybe I don't have Julio Jones anymore, but shoot, I've got the best offensive line in football in a running game in a top 15, top 10 defense possibly this year. And let me make a run at this thing. And boy, oh boy, this guy's getting blasted, and they're not running. This has to suck.
Yeah, I mean, I don't quite know what the trade clause was, or if he had a say in it. My guess is the Falcons treated him well for what he's done for them, and he had a say in where he wanted to go. And you're 100% right. This was looking like the best offseason move for him. This was a great situation. Everything he needed. He could be successful. He's going to be well protected. And now people are questioning him. Now people are putting blame on him. Now people are looking at an 1-2-1 start. Mm-hmm. It kind of feels like the Chief game was like some kind of fluke, some kind of mirage at this point. Like, I can't even imagine that they won that game as bad as they've looked.
They even looked bad in that game. They did not. They shouldn't have won that game.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right, 100% right. The Colts lost that game, I think, more than the Colts won the game. Mm-hmm. Today the Titans. I don't think the Titans are a good team. They're probably average at best in the NFL. And the Colts are worse than that. They're worse than average. So mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of questions flying around in that locker room. And the worst possible news, might be actually good news for the Colts, because they don't have much of a turnaround. You got a Thursday night game. You got to go out to Mile High this week.
Yeah, one thing I'm thinking about is this Colts team, just kind of what's next for them. And maybe a bigger look, a broader look is this team, and maybe fans just need to accept that this is the biggest disappointment of the NFL season, the Indianapolis Colts are. They trade a third-round pick for Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan wanted to go to the Colts. The Falcons grant him that. They send him to Indy for a third-round pick. They sign Stephen Gilmore. So you trade for Matt Ryan. You sign Gilmore. These are win-now moves. And you open up the season 1-2-1 playing teams like Tennessee, Jacksonville, and Houston to start. 3 division teams, 3 teams, as the NFL looks at teams, these are not looked at as elite teams, and you have that record. This team is a disappointment, and the mistakes that they keep making leads me to believe, coaching sucks, but maybe this team is just not good either. The talent on this team is just not good. They're overpaid, offensive line's overpaid, and they're just not good.
You think it's possible some of these guys hit their peak last season? I mean, if you look at the way that their careers are going, they just kind of hit a peak at that moment, and then Matt Ryan's sitting there looking and saying, "Hey, they were 1 win away from the playoffs. They got this great running game. I can add on there." You say, Stephen Gilmore, they sign him, they bring him in, and all the fans are like, "Yeah, we're ready to take the step." And now the rug's just kind of gotten pulled right out from underneath of Colts fans, because they're looking at not even battling in a kind of weak AFC South, but they're looking at saying, we might be bottom 10 in the NFL. I mean, record wise, we are what you are, and they are. They're at the bottom of the NFL, and this is a hard thing to swallow. Do you think Colts fans are ready for that? You think they're ready for the hard truth?
It's you know what? I would almost, as I look at this, I think they're in a bad spot, because this team, they might somehow find a way to creep up in the division and compete a little bit, maybe, but their ceiling is not that high. And the scary thing is their floor could be a little bit higher than what it is, which means that come off season, you're bad enough to not make the playoffs, but good enough to not get a good pick. and you're kind of in this purgatory that we've seen teams in for years. And that's a really like the Denver Broncos, for example. I know they just traded for Russell Wilson this year, but after Peyton Manning, I mean, we've seen. I mean, their roster was still a decent roster, but they didn't have that key position, and some of these players like Von Miller start aging, and then they got worse. I'm afraid the Colts they're treading dangerous waters right now, and as a fan, that's very alarming.
Yeah, what do you think is going to happen first? Do you think Frank Reich's actually going to get fired? Do you think somehow they bring in an offensive coordinator or someone to help with play calling? You think they bench Matt Ryan and try to go with a backup or a younger quarterback? And what do you think is going to happen this year if this keeps playing out?
I think that Reich is the obvious one. Reich's because at the end of the day, like you said, Matt Ryan, I'm a little annoyed at him because he's not playing like they've hyped him up to be this mistake-free quarterback. But at the same time, I think all the blame is going on Reich. And politically speaking, for ownership, that's an easy one to play. Hey, it's coach's fault. You're out of town, and we'll rebuild this offseason. We've talked about it on this show countless times. That hot meter on the hot seat for Frank Reich, and it cooled off a little bit after that loss to the Chiefs. But in our guts, we kind of thought that game was a fluke, and I think that proved it today. So where do you think that seat is in terms of hotness?
Well, this is the worst case scenario for him because now you got the short week. You are the traveling team, and we've seen the away teams are the ones that struggle the most on a Thursday night. You're going into Mile High. You're dealing with the altitude, and it's not a good, Broncos team. They're probably another average team like the Titans. And if they go in there and they get smacked around, if they go in there and lose, now you got 10 days. And kind of the NFL, they see that as a mini bye. And that might be a chance to say, look, we got 10 days to move someone up into an interim term. We got 10 days to kind of fix this around. If they fall 1-3-1 and look kind of the way that they have so far, I would say he's at an 8 now. I think he's pushing 9.5, close to 10 if they lose this game on Thursday. And I think then there's going to be start calling for, they got youth in some areas, but you know what? Why are they playing Matt Ryan? If they're not winning, if they're not going to make the playoffs, why is Matt Ryan playing?
Yeah.
And I think you might start seeing some calls for a little bit of a youth movement, a little bit of a, hey, let's just figure out this year because we suck, and let's kind of start looking to it. And now the Colts shift from, okay, a team moving in this direction to, okay, we've got to accept they're a team down here, and it's a full rebuild. I don't think the Colts fans, I'm not ready for that. I know you're not ready for that, but it's something that we've got to actually kind of face to face right now because that's the reality of this team.
Yeah, this roster is just a disappointment, and as fans, it's a tough pill to swallow because you think about after Andrew Luck, the moves they've made with Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz and now Matt Ryan. The fact that this is happening this early in the season.
Are we done with that? Like, are we done? Is that over? Can we say no more veteran quarterbacks? Like, let's look to the draft. Let's find the future of our quarterbacks.
I think you have to. And I think that I feel like they've tried avoiding that because it means that we're probably not going to win a Super Bowl this year if we do this. But there's a reason why that method of drafting a young quarterback to develop is the best method. I know it's hard to find that guy, but poaching or trading for guys that have overstayed their tenure on their current teams, that's not a proven method either. And we've seen it now a few times with Rivers and Wentz. Matt Ryan is not a bad quarterback. I think on the right team, he probably could still thrive. The Colts are actually probably letting Matt Ryan down.
Yeah, the craziest thing is you got the trade deadline coming up. Colts don't win games. Colts look ahead and they're thinking this season's over. It doesn't happen very often, but an injury or something happens on another team. All of a sudden, maybe Matt Ryan becomes movable. As wild and as crazy as Colts fans look at that, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not predicting it to happen, but to me, it's something that has to be at least discussed or looked at because they're going nowhere with them. And you know what? Why not we just kind of play this year out and then kind of start it all over, maybe with a new coach, maybe with a new GM. It's pretty dark days right now in Indianapolis.
The interesting thing is we have that preseason darling at quarterback in Sam Ehlinger from Texas, and I was never really quite on the Sam Ehlinger hype train, and I think like we do have to hold off a little bit before we actually start calling for Sam Ehlinger. But if this train keeps going off the tracks and it doesn't somehow, the course isn't redirected halfway through this year, I think those shouts and those calls are going to start getting a lot louder, and especially if coach is fired. Because I think if you fire your coach 3-4 games in the season, you're pretty much punting on the season.
Yeah, that's just a huge just drop from what the expectations were to where they are now. Going into this week, and we got to talk about the Jonathan Taylor injury. The reports are going to come out. They're going to do all their tests. We're going to find out if it's a high ankle sprain or not. But do you even risk him? Do you tell him just to, hey, sit down this week and we'll go without you, or you know what, this game is such a win now situation that you play them no matter what? Hey,
good news. The Colts are honest about injuries, right? I mean, we've never had a situation where the Colts have misguided us with an injury, but I think he's got to sit. He's a running back. He's young. He's very young. And if he can sit out this game, then you let him sit it out. And he's got that mini bye week, a 10-day bye week. It's tough. It's tough because Frank's probably thinking, hey, I need everybody I can. We need our best player to play. But at the end of the day, I think you got to do what's best for the player. And if he's not medically in a good spot, I don't think you can play him. We've seen this now. I know it's not a head injury, but you've seen it with Tua, where you put a guy in whose health is in a maybe compromised situation, and it can only make it worse. And you would hate to see that with somebody like Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, I agree with you too, and I think that short week. Look, I'm on record. I hate the Thursday night games. I think they're awful for the NFL. I think you see a lot of bad quality. I see, I think the Tua thing was really unfortunate in a lot of ways, but it just highlights the real danger these Thursday night games are. And for the Colts, they're about as in a bad spot as they were going into the Kansas City game. So maybe since we got that wrong, maybe they'll get this right and they'll figure out to win this game. But I'm just not feeling this one at all, and I think they're going to lose, and I think some serious questions are going to come about Frank Reich.
No, I agree. I think we're in dark waters, but let's end this show with something optimistic here. What is something this team can? Is there any bit of life or anything you think this team could pull out a rabbit out of the hat and make some magic happen?
This season, no, because I just don't feel it with their offensive line. I will say some positives are, you got some young receiving weapons. You got Pierce that we talked about. You got the tight end Cox, Ali Cox. Had a really good game, and we've seen Pittman, although he didn't have a great game, but he's still a young player, and he seems to be a legit player. So I think there's some young talent there that looks good, but that's not going to help them this season. I just don't think they're good enough that they're going to make up for the problems that are having on the offensive line and problems with coaching and now the injuries that are starting to pile up. This team can't afford that. But if you want to look at, hey, we're going to develop and we're going to shift our attention and our mentality, I don't know if Colts fans, I don't know if we're ready to accept that. But that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, my positive nugget is I got a little ball right here of paper, and it's a Colts season, and I'm putting it right in the trash can, and I'm thinking, hey, you know what? Season's done probably, but if we could find a way to develop our young pieces like Alec Pierce, Jonathan Taylor, get better, because he's just now hitting his prime, and if you can do that, and you can find a way this offseason to maybe trade some assets and find a young quarterback, a rookie quarterback to add to this, that quarterback would not be going into a bad situation. There's a lot. There's Houston's a worse situation than this is. So I know we're upset. I know we're depressed because our season's probably over with. But this team is not as talent deficient as some other teams. We're just upset because our expectations were up here and now they're down here.
I want to say this and just throw it out. Do you really think they're in a worse spot than Houston right now?
I think they're in a better spot than Houston.
You really think they're better than Houston?
Better spot? Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. We have guys who Colts fans can go to the store, go on Nike.com and buy a Jonathan Taylor jersey and a Shaquille Leonard jersey and be confident that, hey, this guy, he's pretty good. Who on Houston can a Texans fan, whose jersey are they buying?
I mean, they got a quarterback that looks all right. They got a running back that looks pretty good now. They've got a lot of draft picks in the next few drafts. I mean, again, that's like, I don't want to be the guy that brings everybody down. I don't want to be the Debbie Downer here, but I think Colts fans got to be realistic. They're just not as good as what they thought they are, and this is who they are.
Yeah, no, this is what happens when we lose. It's dark days, and we've looked bad, and the problems haven't been fixed. So, hey, short week. They're playing Denver. It's in Mile High Stadium. It always will be Mile High Stadium, by the way. And
yeah, I know.
So we'll see if Frank Reich can make some magic happen. I'm not confident, but hey, you never know. It is the NFL. Crazy things happen. Guys, this is the Common Colt Podcast. That's Dan Hertzler. I'm Josh Hudgens. Make sure to like, subscribe. We're on Apple Music, Spotify, all that good stuff. Follow us, guys. And hey, hopefully next podcast we can be a little more optimistic. Thanks for watching.